Good Monday evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls. We have quite a few topics to get to this evening. First and foremost, I'm sure you noticed it if you were out and about at all around the Chicagoland area today. We had wildfire smoke blanketing the skies yet again today. So this actually moved into the area yesterday. It's lingering today. Now we have air quality alerts that we need to tell you about that are remaining in effect through midnight Tuesday night, so we have a whole nother day to get through. And then also, if we bounce down to the tropics, we're going to be talking about a system that could potentially be impacting Florida and the Gulf Coast. It is not yet a tropical storm or a tropical system, but it's something that we're really closely keeping our close eye on. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then here locally, we have drought-like conditions. We've been talking about it really all year long. Some portions of the area considered to be in a severe drought, but could we see some improvements on that pretty soon? So we'll touch on that as well a little bit later. First, let's talk about the air quality index and what it is. So basically, this is an indicator of air pollutants and whether or not it can impact our health. So if you've heard of the AQI, and you probably see whenever you open up your weather app or whatever app you may have, if it shows your AQI, if ever you see a number that's less than 100, that's suggesting that the air quality index is acceptable to most individuals. But for people that have underlying conditions to where the air quality can make a really big difference in their day, that's typically still something that you have to monitor even when you're in that moderate category, which you can see here on this map that's highlighted in yellow. So when an AQI is between 51 and 100, that's when we're in that moderate category. And most of today, the majority of northeastern Illinois was in that moderate category. And then we jumped up into that orange shaded category, 101 to 150. I did just check right before we came on the air here at 8 p.m. that the current AQI is at 150. So we are at the high end of that category that is unhealthy for sensitive groups, just borderline going into unhealthy for all individuals. So essentially, what you want to take away from this, whenever you see an AQI that's less than 100, chances are the air quality is still acceptable. Once you go over 100, that's when you have to start paying attention to potentially your exposure outside. And here's some of the pollutants that go into the AQI: ground level ozone, particle pollution, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen dioxide. But when we're talking about wildfire smoke, it's really all about the particle pollution. So you have those small little particles that are in the air that can work their way down to the surface, and then eventually we breathe them in. They can get into our lungs, our bloodstream, and then that's when we could have some issues. So the air quality right now all across the upper Midwest, stretching over to the Northeast, you can see that there's a lot of yellow. Again, that's that moderate category that we were just talking about, where it's acceptable to most individuals. But there's also a lot of oranges on this map, which means it's unhealthy for sensitive groups. And if we zoom things in specifically to the Chicagoland area, you'll notice kind of peppered throughout the coast, the Lake Michigan coastline there in northeastern Illinois, we have unhealthy for sensitive groups. We round the lake into northwest Indiana, and that's still considered to be unhealthy for sensitive groups. But if we zoom things way in now to the Chicago metro area down toward northwest Indiana, you see that little pocket of red? So that's that unhealthy category, unhealthy for all groups. And this is near Whiting and then kind of following I-90 there, right along the coast, up into the south side of Chicago. So yes, we do have unhealthy air quality in some portions of the area this evening. So the air quality alert that we were mentioning at the top of this show, that's in effect for all locations that you see here highlighted in orange. So this includes McHenry County, Lake Illinois, Kane, DuPage, Cook County, for those of you in Kendall, Grundy, and Will, and then all of northwest Indiana considered to be in this air quality alert as well, lasting until midnight Tuesday night. So we still have a whole nother day that we could be dealing with that smoke in the air. So FutureCast smoke, this is a product that really kind of takes into consideration, vertically speaking, how much smoke is in the air above the ground. So you'll notice that the thicker smoke, the denser smoke is off to our north, thankfully. So if you think back a few months ago when we were dealing with wildfire smoke across the region for what felt like weeks at a time, at times around that round, we actually had really dense smoke that was overhead. Today, it hasn't quite been like that. It's been lighter, but nonetheless, it's still enough to cause concern out there. So that's why we have that air quality alert. Now, speaking of wildfires, take a look at this. So there are two very large fires that are actually burning in Arizona, both of which are considered to be 0% contained. The first one that we're going to talk about is the White Sage Fire. Take a look at how many acres here have burned, 49,356. And again, this is 0% contained so far. And if you compute that, it actually comes out to be 77 square miles have burned in the White Sage fire. And then just a little ways south of there, we have the Dragon Bravo fire. And this one, if you've been seeing the headlines online about a Grand Canyon fire, this is the one that they're talking about. So it's on the northern edge of the Grand Canyon. This is called the Dragon Bravo fire, and it's burned 5,716 acres, which equates to be just shy of 9 square miles. And this too is considered to be 0% contained. So just like us here around the upper Midwest are dealing with wildfire smoke, a good portion of the southwestern U.S. too is now feeling the effects of that as well because of ongoing wildfires, especially these two that are in Arizona and very large at this point. Again, the White Sage fire is up to 77 square miles. Now let's bounce further to the south and talk about the tropics. So there's one particular area that we're really going to be focusing in on today, and you'll notice that the map is set on Florida. So what you're looking at here is a satellite image of, we have kind of unorganized thunderstorms going on around the Florida area. So there's a weak low pressure system as we speak, but it's likely going to strengthen. So the system's going to pass west across Florida and then likely make its way into the Gulf. And as that happens, it could potentially turn into a tropical cyclone. So the National Hurricane Center has this entire area across Florida and then the far northern Gulf Coast there reaching into Louisiana. Over the next 2 days, there's a 30% chance that we could see some sort of tropical cyclone development. But then looking beyond the next 2 days, so later this week, this jumps up to 40%. So is it a sure bet? No, but it still looks like nonetheless that this low pressure system, it's going to be moving into the Gulf, and the Gulf is much more favorable for cyclone development than what we have in the Atlantic right now. So the Atlantic waters, not nearly as warm as what we have across the Gulf. And remember, whenever you're talking about tropical storms or hurricanes, a lot of it comes down to the sea surface temperatures on just how strong these storms can get. So you need a couple things. You need warm sea surface temperatures and you need not a lot of wind shear. So this particular low pressure system, it's moving out of somewhat a hostile environment over the Atlantic into a much more favorable environment across the Gulf. So you'll notice here the sea surface temperatures very, very warm, sitting in the mid, if not upper 80s, closer to the Gulf Coast in Louisiana, near New Orleans. We have 88-degree water temperatures. So again, if this is able to kind of get its act together, we could potentially have a tropical depression developing mid to late this week, and that could be bringing flooding rains to portions of the area. So the flash flood risk across Florida today was actually in the slight risk category. Now it's dropped to the marginal risk throughout the rest of this evening and tonight. But watch what happens when I show you tomorrow. So you'll notice that it jumps back up to that slight risk again. So heavy, heavy downpours are going to be coming along with those slow moving thunderstorms that are associated with that low pressure system. And then that's going to keep on going right into the middle of this week. So that's actually something that I think we're going to have to watch the news headlines very closely and really monitor what's taking place in Florida over the next couple of days, because we could potentially be dealing with flash flooding. And then by Wednesday, you can see that kind of rounds the Gulf Coast all the way over into Mississippi and Louisiana. Speaking of flash flood risk, let's jump back to the north into the Chicagoland area. We've been talking a lot about flash floods recently. Of course, we had everything that was taking place in Texas last week and then again over the weekend. And here at home, even last week around this very same time, we were experiencing very heavy rainfall in portions of Chicago, dealing with flash flooding that was taking place in the city. But looking ahead to Wednesday, there are some signs that we could have some more slow-moving thunderstorms that are torrential downpours coming along with those. So the flash flood risk is at least in the marginal category here at home for Wednesday when we have our next weather maker kind of moving in. So Futurecast here taking us throughout this evening and tonight. It stays fairly quiet. We're going to be mostly clear. Tomorrow morning we wake up to sunshine. Temperatures are going to be around 70 degrees in the morning. And then during the afternoon, we're going to start to see at least a couple pop-up showers and storms, but really on an isolated basis. Most areas will end up staying dry tomorrow, but then comes Wednesday, we have this low pressure system that's going to approach the area, bringing in showers, thunderstorms, slow moving thunderstorms could be a possibility. So that's why we have that flash flood risk. Now, we've had a lot of rain over the last week, week and a half, especially from Chicago, points north and then points west. So what I'm going to show you right after this break is how much rain we've had and just how much rain we could use to improve the drought monitor. Those details and more coming up. Welcome back. So we've been dealing with drought conditions really all year long, and just over the last week, we've actually had the updated drought monitor come in last Thursday morning, showing that some portions of the area are now considered to be in a severe drought. And for those of you listening to this, you're probably thinking, what are you talking about? We just picked up 3 to 6 inches of rainfall in some locations. But the reason that this map hasn't changed is because the drought monitor, it comes out every Thursday morning, so only once a week. And then the data that goes into making that drought monitor, the cutoff for that, I believe, is Tuesday night. So all of the rain that we picked up last week on Wednesday, all of the rain that we had on Thursday, all of the rain that we had on Friday, that hasn't been accounted in the drought monitor map that you're seeing here. So with all that said, I do think that this Thursday, when the new drought monitor comes out, we are likely going to see some improvements, and here's why. So take a look at the 5-day rainfall here locally. Some portions of the area, especially from Chicago, points west, southwest, northwest, have seen anywhere from about 2.5 to 6 inches of rain. And actually near the United Center about a week ago, remember, we picked up almost 6 inches of rain in a matter of 90 minutes. So again, we are likely going to see some improvements when that drought monitor comes out on Thursday, just because of all of the rainfall that we've picked up since that last drought monitor came out. So I'm really hopeful that on Thursday morning, we're going to get some good news about the drought-like conditions across the Chicagoland area. So your 5-day forecast as far as rainfall is concerned, we have a very small chance for a couple stray pop-up showers and storms on Tuesday. A much better chance is going to be here Wednesday and then into Thursday. That's associated with that low pressure system that could potentially be bringing in that low-end flash flood risk for us on Wednesday. But then by Friday, we're drying things out. Going into the upcoming weekend, we could once again see some showers and thunderstorms. Tonight, no weather-related issues whatsoever. We're looking at clear skies. Temperatures are going to be right around 70 degrees. So we're kind of getting a head start to that heat tomorrow morning. We'll wake up to sunny skies. Temperatures during the afternoon are expected to be in the low 90s. The humidity, that's going to be higher than today as well. So you're going to feel the heat, you're going to feel the humidity, and there's just a very low-end chance of rain. Most of us aren't going to see that tomorrow. But then by Wednesday and Thursday, again, we do have that better chance of showers and thunderstorms. And for those of you that do not like the heat, you don't like the humidity, sorry, but you're not going to like Tuesday and Wednesday. And in addition to that, we have that air quality alert in effect until late Tuesday night. But by Thursday, everything should get much more comfortable. Temperature-wise, we are going to be in the lower 80s, and then it gets even cooler by Friday. I'll have those details, including your weekend forecast, your full 7-day forecast, coming up on the news at 9 p.m. We'll see you soon.